Hello guys and dolls, and welcome back. I am super excited to bring you guys today's video. I am a very lucky girl because I got my hands on the new Wayne Goss airbrush before it comes out. This brush is kind of cool. Wayne did something different when it came to naming this brush. He actually had a contest. So I want to say a huge congratulations to Tammy from Georgia. I know you've already been, announced and everything. But she named this brush the airbrush, and I couldn't think of a better name for this brush. I was thinking something like butter buffer, but that's a mouthful. But airbrush is perfect because this brush is quite fabulous. As you guys know, I love the Wayne Goss brushes. And before we get into the review of this brush specifically, my dad's telling me goodnight. Hold on. Okay, and putting it on silent. Before I get into the full-on review of this brush specifically, because I'm going to show you guys a demo and everything, I'm going to use the same techniques that Wayne showed in his video, but I'm going to show you guys me using them on myself to kind of show you guys that it's not just Wayne knowing, special things or how to use a brush. It is actually a really great brush. Before I get into all of that, I want to talk to you guys about how I feel about my Wayne Goss brush collection after owning them now for several years. And in the interest of full disclosure, most of these I purchased myself, but one or two brushes along the way have been gifts from Beautylish. I believe that they gifted me with the powder brush set and one or two of the Wayne Goss. It was originally called the Holiday Brush, now it's called the 00. But I did purchase at least one of those. I think I might have purchased two of them. Give you guys a little bit of like an update on how I feel about them. I've done a lot of Wayne Goss brush reviews in the past. I own every single brush except for the Holiday Brush from this last year because I wasn't able to get my hands on it. Christmas time, you gotta buy presents for other people, not for yourself sometimes. I don't want this video to end up being like super long, so I'm not going to go in depth with each one of these brushes because I've already covered them in multiple videos. So I will have links in the description bar down below if you'd like to see more thorough reviews of the Wayne Goss brush sets. Just kind of throughout time. I still love these. I think that they are fabulous brushes. I mean, I don't have one bad thing to say about these. There might be individual brushes where they're just not used as much because it's just not the way that I prefer to apply makeup. But that's like, we're talking about like one or two brushes here out of like, I don't know, 20 or whatever. I think that in particular, the blue squirrel brushes are so fantastic. They are so soft. They deliver product seamlessly. They just blend perfectly. It's kind of like, damn, Daniel, bringing it back with the blending. No, they are incredible quality, first and foremost. Like, the quality kind of blows my mind. They don't shed. They don't stain. Like, like, how is it possible that these are not stained? I use this primarily for blush versus using the black one because I can see the blush on the brush, as opposed to the black one where it's a little bit more difficult to actually see where it's been picked up. It's not like it's hard, it's just this a little bit easier. And this is still not stained, which I'm pretty impressed with. A lot of my other goat hair brushes are completely stained. I don't know how they do that. These are my go-to kinds of brushes. I still love them for the same reasons I talked about in previous videos. I like the shorter handles because they fit more easily in a makeup bag. I like them because if I don't have my contacts in or my glasses on, I can get really close into my mirror and it's not going to knock on the mirror. I just love them. They are so luxurious. There are much more expensive makeup brushes than these that are nowhere near as luxurious. Moving on to the new airbrush. This brush is pretty freaking awesome. So first and foremost, when it first came in the mail, I had to pet it, of course. I don't know exactly what this is made out of because I don't think they've made it clear, but I do believe this is made out of blue squirrel. Just kind of touching it and my knowledge of his other brushes, I believe this is blue squirrel. I could be wrong on that though. Now this brush is interesting. It's sort of a paddle style brush. It's got the pinched ferrule and it sort of comes to a tapered tip like this, which is quite lovely. And it's very fluffy and it's not very dense, which means it's really great for powder application. So I love this. I didn't expect to love it quite as much as I did. I think the Title airbrush is so perfect for this because it really does give you a beautiful airbrush finish without the airbrush, which sounds like a commercial, but whatever. I love how this comes to such a fine tip. It just really makes it so that it's almost like a blade. There's like the two different sides. Now I did a demo today based on Wayne's video announcing this brush. So what I've done is I did them two different ways. So on this side, I went ahead and went really soft on just one side. And then on this side, I kind of used the brush back and forth to see if there was any real difference. And while there is a bit of a difference, I feel like this side looks a little more controlled, this side also looks perfectly blended. It's still going to give you a great finish no matter what. The other thing I really love about this brush is that it's very easy to get the product off of the brush, so it's really easy to just wipe it off and then switch between colors. I love that about this brush because I can use this brush for multiple things, which I'm going to use it for contour, blush, highlight, and then also for my face powder today. So it's really kind of remarkable what this can do. I'm also going to use it for face powder underneath to cut the cheek as well. And then finally, the thing that makes this so fabulous is that because it is so soft and because it's made out of that blue squirrel hair and because of the shape of it and everything, it picks powder up so beautifully. It just picks up just the right amount, not too much. When you go to like knock it off, there's not like powder flying everywhere. Versus if you were to use, and I hate to even call it out in a negative way, but my super cool Kumadori brush from Japanesque, this has cut hairs and they're nowhere near soft. They're dyed goat hair, so that so if I were to use this in the same way in a powder, it would just kick up tons and tons of product. You know, when you knock it off, it's going to go flying everywhere, and it's not going to give you the same kind of finish versus this Wayne Goss brush. Now, I have no idea how much this is going to cost. I imagine a pretty penny, being that it's a larger blue squirrel brush, and the blue squirrel is the most expensive hair, I believe. So I don't know how much it's going to cost, but it's whatever it is, it's probably worth it. Let me go ahead and show you guys the demo of me using this with a few different things. So for my contour today, I'm using the You Sculpted palette from It Cosmetics, which I adore. I'm using the Soft Contour shade, which is my shade of contour, and I am super impressed with how this worked. So on this side of my face, I'm using it flat. I'm not kind of mixing it back and forth. I'm sort of using the side of the brush to blend the product into my skin. I am so impressed with how this applied. I cannot believe it. For the second side, I wanted to kind of get a little sloppy with it and see how this would work if maybe you weren't paying as much attention. You were kind of going back and forth between the two sides of the brush. And again, super impressed. In fact, maybe even more impressed because I wasn't really trying and it still looked amazing. So then for my next act, I used an Hourglass blush, which I adore, but tends to go on a little bit too intense for me. This is the Mood Exposure, which is a beautiful warm plum. So the same technique, I went back and forth on one side and then blended it and really melded it into the skin. Super impressed with the application. It wasn't too much, it wasn't too little. And anything that I did trying to go a little heavier handed, like on the other side, I really went in and tried to make it a little overly intense because of the buffing technique we're going to do. The highlight today, I wanted to use the Natasha Denona Glow, which has a beautiful metallic glow, which means it's going to be super intense. I'm like, okay, this is the perfect kind of highlight to test with this. So again, went back and forth, melded it into the skin, super impressed with the finish. It doesn't look, you know, textured or overly chalky on my skin. It just looks gorgeous. And on the second side, I went back and forth, tried to really load up my brush, tried to overdo it. It's beautiful, it's soft, it's plush, it's glowy. I love it. I even did a little bit of highlighting on my nose, on my chin, and just above my eyebrow because Wayne showed that in his videos. I'm like, okay, why not? For the buffing technique, I used my Mineralized Skin Finish in Light Plus from MAC. Loaded up the brush, made sure I had plenty of product, and then I used all that on one side. I think I might have dipped into the powder one more time, I'm not entirely sure. But the point is, this wasn't picking up too much powder. This was picking up the perfect amount of powder, just blending it into my skin. Now this technique I am familiar with. I think I've made a video about how to tone down your blush, and it's a very similar kind of concept. You're just kind of going over everything with a tinted powder as opposed to just like a colorless setting powder. But going over it with that tint does kind of meld everything together because it's almost like a veil of everything in the same tone, which sort of makes everything blur and blend together beautifully. So I'm really glad he was kind of bringing out that technique again. And this brush is perfect for that. It's not going to disturb anything you have underneath. I've been rubbing it all over my face the entire time I've been talking to you guys, and this hasn't, you know, added any extra color or shine in it or anything. Every time I've wiped the brush off, the product actually comes out of the brush, which is pretty impressive. Now the other thing I want to mention is the cutting the cheek method, which he showed in his video, so I decided I'd show it in mine as well. I used the Laura Mercier translucent setting powder, and I just applied that just underneath my contour, and then I wiped off the brush to make sure I was getting rid of any excess, and then blended it out, and voila, it looks fantastic. So one other thing you might notice is that I went ahead and filled in a couple freckles that I have all over my face, and I filled them in a bit darker because I wanted to try applying, you know, the thing that I used to fill them in, which just FYI is the Milani Brow Tint in Natural Taupe. So I went ahead and filled those in a little heavier than I would do normally, and then I went over it with the powder just to kind of see how that would work, and it worked flawlessly. They look a little more naturalistic because they don't look as loud and like too, you know, overly pigmented or anything from just using the pen. I'm really impressed with the way that my contour and blush and everything looks today, thanks to this brush. I love that I can do them all with this because it actually comes clean when you wipe it off, so there's no need to have like 17 of them on hand, although I think I'm gonna have to pick up another one of these because I like it that much that I want to be able to keep one in my bag as like an emergency brush, because it can kind of do anything that I want it to do. It's not like a lot of these other brushes where, you know, like, I mean, I love it, but this brush just can't do everything, you know what I mean? So that is my updated thoughts, feelings, comments, and concerns about the Wayne Goss brush set collection, as well as the new airbrush brush. This will be launching tomorrow on Beautylish, so I will have a link in the description bar down below if you'd like to check this brush out. I don't know how much it's going to cost, so I will be there when this launches to pick another one up. I was really excited to be able to kind of talk to you guys about these brushes because I've had them for such an extended period of time. I don't even really realize how much I use them in my videos until people ask me like, what brushes do you like other than Wayne Goss? And I'm like, oh, well, and I've been trying to branch out a little bit, but I keep coming back to these because they're such good quality. The craftsmanship and the way that they've held up over time, like, I am more impressed than I even thought I could be when I initially purchased them. I expected them to wear down, particularly in light of the fact that I'm not super delicate with them, that I've used alcohol on them, although I try not to. But I use the Cinema Secrets brush cleanser on them all the time, and they're fine. It doesn't seem to bother them, doesn't seem to stain them, just makes them smell so good. Later this week, I'm going to have a swimsuit video for you guys. I know, I'm super excited to share that with you guys. I hope you're excited for it too. I also want to mention that Mikey uploaded a video yesterday called Man Care Monday. So if you guys want to go ahead and click the link in the description bar down below, give him some love. He was very nervous to make that video, but I think he did an amazing job. Like, I was so impressed with him. When I was editing it, I was like, damn, you're so funny, babe. Anyway, a little shameless plug there. That is it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Remember to be vintage or tacky. Just be your own kind of beautiful.